Hello! First I'd like to apologize that this video is so late. I started filming this before Christmas, but then stuff happened and I'm sorry this is late, but I have the next video ready as well, so I should be back to weekly schedule. But today's video is about this skirt. And it is a fully sheared skirt with a lining, as per requested. For this project you will need your actual fabric of the skirt, your lining matching the color of your skirt, elastic for the waistband, and thread and scissors and all that kind of stuff. When making the pattern, the first thing you want to decide is the width of your fabric, and this should be at least 3 times your waist, but because I love massive hems, mine is 3 meters. And the next thing you want is the length of your skirt. So you want to measure from your waist. If you're unsure with where you want the skirt to sit, it's easier if you have a skirt on and then measure from there. And actually my fabric was 1.5 meters wide, and it had these prints on both ends, so I just cut it in half lengthwise. So my skirt is 62 centimeters long, and as for the elastic, mine is 2 centimeters wide, so you want it to be 3 centimeters, and I added a 1 centimeter of seam allowance. And you don't have to double that, because the elastic tunnel will be constructed both of the material of your skirt and of your lining. And as for the lining, you want it to be otherwise exactly same measurements, but you want it to be a bit shorter. And how much shorter depends on why you're using lining. For example, my skirt isn't see-through, but it was thin and flowy enough that I wanted to have a lining for it so that it doesn't show every bump of my petticoats and stuff like that. So mine is 4 centimeters shorter. But if your fabric is very see-through, you want them to be very close to each other, only maybe 1 or 2 centimeters shorter, so that it doesn't show the petticoat through the skirt. Because I want to cut out the bottom of the skirt, I'm gonna use an overlocker to do the hem. The sides of the fabric don't fray, so I don't have to hem them, but to the top part of the fabric I'll put a zigzag, and because the fabric is so thin, I have to slightly pull it as I sew so that it doesn't wrinkle. After you're done with your edges, you want to make your fabric into a long tube, so sew together the sides. Mine is in 2 pieces, so I'll sew those together, and while you're doing it, you want to start from the hem, and if you have a pattern that you have to match up, be sure you match those up pretty, so you don't have to take it apart and sew it again. For example, I have these black stripes, so I make sure they're aligned before I start sewing. And repeat that to all the side seams that you have to do. Next up, you want to fold your hem. I'm just gonna fold the beige part under the black part and sew along. And if you wanted to add lace, now would be the time. You would just... Where's the end? You would just take your lace and sew it on as well, but because I don't have the right lace for this skirt, I won't. I might add some lace later, but I'll go without for now. But if you wanted to add lace, now would be the perfect time. After you're done with that, you should have a long tube of fabric. And once you're done with the fabric of your actual skirt, you want to repeat the whole process to your lining. And lining fabric can be a bit annoying to sew because it's so slippery that it puckers easily, but don't mind, it's only the lining and no one's gonna see it. But once you have 2 tubes, you want to sew them together. So you'll want to take your skirt fabric and make it face the print side up. And it doesn't really matter which side up is your lining, but usually it's done so that all the seams get inside the skirt and the lining. But the next step you'll want to do is sew them together. Now again, make sure that your lining is shorter than your skirt. Now mine is not see-through, so it doesn't matter how much shorter this is, but if your skirt fabric is very see-through, then you want to make sure that it's not very much shorter, but still somewhat, so that it doesn't show. But the next step is to sew these skirts together. Sew along the top and again make the pretty sides face together. After you're done with that, it will look like this. And the next step we want to do is to make the tunnel for the elastic. So you want to fold it like this. And when you're sewing the tunnel, make double sure that you don't leave more lining showing than you leave your skirt fabric. So you want to sew it a bit more like this. And again, you can iron it or pin it or whatever makes it good for you. I'm gonna adjust it a bit better, but now you can see that you want to sew from about here so that you have enough room for the elastic. I am going to follow the guidelines on my sewing machine so that I know I'll be making the same width all the time. My camera ran out of battery, but while you're sewing the tunnel, you want to make sure that you don't sew all the way around. You want to leave a small opening, because now we're going to put our elastic through. You want to put a safety pin to the other side and go inside the skirt and put it in the tunnel. Once you've put some of it through, you want to make sure that you don't lose the other end. So take another safety pin, make sure that you don't tangle the elastic, and pin it down to the skirt. and now you won't lose it. And you want to continue to do this all around. Okay, so now we're back to the starting point. So you want to put the elastic through the hole and hold tight so you don't lose it. And pull it through. And you want to pull it quite a lot out, and then take the other one and make sure you don't lose it. Pull that back out as well. Take the safety pins out. And next you're going to sew these together. Overlap them quite much so that it doesn't snap while you're wearing it. And you want to use a wide zigzag, a short and wide zigzag. I'm gonna use the beige thread so you can see better what I'm doing. And just go back and forth as many times as you can. Cut away the excess. And now you can pull it back through. After you're done with that, next you're going to sew this all the way closed. And make sure that it isn't ruffled while you sew. You want it to be nice and straight. And be careful not to sew on top of the elastic as well. And that is the skirt part done. And this is what the ready skirt will look like. That's it for this week's video. I hope you liked it, and I promise that the next craft video won't be a skirt. And I'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye!